The economy is in one of its worst periods since the Great Depression, and voters pick a new president in less than 4 weeks now. In a time of crisis, which way do voters tend to go, right or left? Joining me are two of the smartest people I know, NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss and Richard Stengel, who edits Time magazine. But just give me your sense, when the economy, not bad times, we've been through bad times before, but when you have a situation where things are crashing, like now when it's scary, what's the impulse of the voters? Michael.
They go to the party that does not own the White House. Roosevelt in 1932, Ronald Reagan in 1980, Bill Clinton in 1992.
They go to the other party.
They do.
What do you think? What about the ideology? Do they go to the right or left generally, Richard Stengel?
Well, Chris, I know you're concerned about whether voters opt for change or security. I think when people are this scared and this nervous, change equals security. I think that's what Michael was suggesting. I mean, if you move away from the party that has brought you that fear, that conveys a certain amount of security.
And the reason I ask it is I have a sense that Barack Obama emphasizes the bad times and John McCain emphasizes the crisis, making me think he figures during a time of crisis you embrace security.
I think that's right, and also I think that's
like
why
the old hand, the man of the right.
I think that's right, and also there's a difference between economics and foreign policy. When there's an economic crisis like the ones I mentioned, you basically throw out the party that owns the White House. When there's a foreign policy crisis, oftentimes it's the opposite. You know, one example is you and I have talked about Franklin Roosevelt in 1944. He won against Thomas Dewey, but Roosevelt in private after that election said, if the war had ended before this election, I would have been thrown out because people would have been voting not, we need security from our great leader who's been fighting the war. They would have been angry about post-war economic dislocations. That's what happened to your hero, Winston Churchill, in 45.
Sure to get bounced. Sure. Let me ask you, Richard, the same question back to you afterwards, Michael. Richard, the question is, America has a history of electing people of a certain type, and for almost 200 years it was white Protestant males to the presidency. Now we've broadened it in 1960 to white Christians, if you will, and now we may broaden it further to males this time around. Do we broaden it to people like ex-movie actors and people of perhaps second-rate mind, of what's his name was referred to? In other words, do we broaden the standard of admission when times are rough?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, whether people opt for something familiar or something different. I think what's happening now is that even though Barack Obama seems foreign to some people, seems unfamiliar to some people, people are so questing for, needing change, that their anxiety about the present trumps their anxiety about someone that is foreign or someone that is different. I mean, we've seen the Republicans do this time and time again. I mean, even with John Kerry. John Kerry was a French wine, baguette-loving windsurfer. You know, Michael Dukakis was someone with an unfamiliar name who was slightly foreign. I mean, what the McCain-Palin ticket is doing now is trying to tar Obama with that brush and try to make him seem foreign. And in a period of anxiety and nervousness, they're thinking maybe people are too nervous to embrace something that seems unfamiliar.
So who wins at a time when you have to choose between the familiar, but that seems like the status quo, and the different that seems too foreign? It does put you in a conflict bind. Is that what the Republicans are trying to do here?
Yes, but I think
and it hasn't. I'll defer to Rick.
Go ahead, Rick.
What I'm saying though now is that the change, the need for change, is so strong that will trump the fear of the unfamiliar. I think that's sort of what Obama is banking on. That's what the Democrats are banking on. And that's what our recent polls showed, too.
And that's what happened in 32, where you had a dilettante, and the Republicans had been in power roughly since the Civil War. And all of a sudden, in 32, they went with the Democrats, who had been on the wrong side of the Civil War. And then, of course, with Reagan, who was described as a B movie actor, what it meant he made B movies, not that he was a B actor. All of a sudden, a man of that background was acceptable, in fact, incredibly popular.
Yeah, and go up to 92. You know, you were talking earlier, Chris, about George H.W. Bush raising aspersions against Bill Clinton, having gone to Moscow, campaigned against the Vietnam War.
I love that, don't you? He went to Moscow. Soil. He must be a red.
Yeah, and you remember the third debate between Bush, Clinton, and Ross Perot. Ross Perot, when George H.W. Bush brought that up, said, let's stop it. That's something that happened a long time ago. It's not important given the basic important issues we're facing as a country.
I haven't heard John McCain say that yet.
No, I don't think you're going to hear him say that either, but Americans might.
Well, I like to believe, ask me if I'm wrong, tell me if I believe Americans are up to the challenge of making a change when they know they don't like what they got. Your thoughts, Richard?
Well, here's the thing.
That's why they came to America in the first place. What they had wasn't good enough. That's why people emigrated.
Right, and we are a nation of immigrants, but we also are a nation that's changing its face. Look, by 2040, we will be a country that no longer has a white majority. Barack Obama looks like the America that we're becoming. As Richard Rodriguez said, we're no longer white or black, we're a brown country. And Barack Obama stands for that. The question, on some people's minds, I think, and the Republicans, is that are people, other people, our older people, our baby boomers, our certain working class people, so afraid of that nation that's coming, that's inevitable, that they'll turn away from that and embrace a past, which in some ways is nostalgia. I mean, part of what Ronald Reagan did.
That's exactly what the McCain campaign, led by Stephen Schmidt, is aimed at doing right now. Get people to look backwards, not forward. They know exactly what they're doing. Go to the old people in Florida, the ethnic people in Pennsylvania and in Florida. I know what they're doing. They're scaring them backwards. Anyway, Michael Beschloss, Richard Stengel, thank you.